Recorded at the WNDU 16 News Now studios, this is the South Bend Tribune's Pot of Gold Notre Dame football podcast. Here are your hosts, columnist Tom Noie, Notre Dame football beat writer Mike Berardino, and WNDU's Jackson Neill.
We're not running a three-man weave today, Jackson Neill. This is a two-man show. Mike Berardino is still somewhere in points south of South Beach.
Points unknown.
Points unknown. South Beach somewhere, taking a couple of days of vacation, staying down in Miami after Sunday night's game, 27-24. Notre Dame loses to number 10 Miami. He's back in Florida. We're back in South Bend. This is not an emergency pod, but just kind of like a pod. Like it's the week. Notre Dame's got the week off. This is the worst schedule that they run in college football, where you get the lead into the opening week. Let's go, big game, and then you get 13 days away from game action. So we're gonna pod. We're gonna talk about Notre Dame football. And hey, by the way, there's a lot to talk about from Sunday night, right?
There's a lot of storylines coming out from that game, Tom.
Before we get to all of them and get to some questions and get to some opinions and get to some rankings of angst levels going around college football, let's get to the new coaches poll. I'm not going to call it the USLBM or whatever it is. It's the coaches poll. It's conducted by USA Today. We are owned by USA Today at the South Bend Tribune, so we follow the USA Today poll. The other poll by that other news gathering service, forget
Never
that.
even heard of it.
Yeah, we don't know about that. So Notre Dame last week, they opened at number 5 heading into that game against Miami. Right now, the poll was basically just released within the last 25 minutes. On my drive over here, it was released, and Notre Dame is now 9th in the country, dropping 5 spots after losing to Miami. Miami, which is number 10, they jump up to number 7. And the high-low for Notre Dame, which is now 0-1 for the first time since 2022, they were ranked as low as 9, which is where they are, and they were ranked as high as 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's a drop expected, but still being in the top 10, I think that's a pretty fair one. I think that that was not a bad, we'll get into the loss more, but not a bad loss. Keeping them in the top 10, you lose to a top 10 team on the road in week 1. You should not be dropping all the way down the poll.
Let's run through the top 10. There is a new number one after Texas loses. Who did Texas lose to?
Ohio State.
Ohio State is back up at number 1. Penn State is 2. Georgia 3. LSU, one of the bigger wins of the weekend at Clemson. They're at 4. Oregon jumps from 7 to 5, where Notre Dame used to be. Texas falls from 1 to 6. Those aforementioned Hurricanes of Miami check in now at number 7. Clemson fell to number 8. We have Notre Dame at 9, and at 10, I'd give you 10 guesses, and you probably wouldn't come up with number 10.
Well,
if you don't know what the poll is.
The problem is on my other screen right there, I have the poll up. But I was not expecting. Can I spoil the surprise?
You can. Give us who number 10 is.
Arizona State. Yeah, they're coming into this year with some expectations, but I kind of forgot about them since they played in that Dublin game, and we haven't seen them in a little bit.
Other schools of note.
Oh wait, no, that wasn't that. That was my Iowa State. Kansas State.
Yeah,
my bad.
that's not. You get your states mixed up. Let's go.
You know what? I just got back from Miami last night. I'm still kind of catching up.
You know what?
Had to pull out the excuse.
We're 4 minutes in, and Jackson's already saying, you know what? I'm not on my A game because I was in South Beach for the last couple of days.
in rainy South Beach.
And raining, and there's no tailgating going on at Hard Rock Stadium. And oh, woe is me. Oh, woe is the media. The media couldn't make it to Marcus Freeman's press conference on time.
I was there. No, I was sitting in the seat about to ask a question with no media in that room.
There's nobody. There was nobody there because the Hard Rock Stadium, for all it has hosted as far as Super Bowls, as far as the Orange Bowl every year, this year it's hosting the national championship game, the press seating / situation at Hard Rock Stadium absolutely sucks. Because there's no easy way to get to the post game without taking the elevator, and there's one elevator, and it wasn't working apparently on Sunday night. So almost there was a moment there where Marcus Freeman was sitting in the post game, and there was no local media except for Jackson. He was there.
Yes,
maybe a couple other people, but that happened a couple of years ago at USC, where they, for whatever reason, there was some sort of skirmish, some sort of thing going on in the tunnel at the LA Coliseum, and they didn't let any media up the tunnel to go to Marcus Freeman's press conference. So Tyler James, local writer Tyler James, was the only one in that post-game press conference with Marcus Freeman at USC a couple of years ago. That almost happened the other night against Miami. Fortunately, people got down, and Marcus Freeman, being Marcus Freeman, like tough win, tough loss, tough way to open the season. But he apparently he learned about what was going on and said, we'll give him a few minutes. So he was able to make the post game, as were you, which is probably why you're so tired.
I mean, I went out the side door and went down the concourse. Had to get out of a fight that broke out at one point, so that was a little interesting.
On your way to the post game,
on my way to the post game,
you saw somebody throwing hands.
It didn't escalate too bad, but there was one or two hands thrown, and I was like hoping no one thought it was a bunch of Miami fans, hoping no one realized that I was covering Notre Dame. But able to get there all right, nothing too bad there.
So let's start diving into the Miami game, 27-24. Give me one word, Jackson Neill. One word reaction from Sunday's game. What would that word be?
The word that keeps coming to my mind is almost. They're almost there in a couple spots. It's like CJ Carr showed a lot of things, but then there's the interception problem. There's pieces of the team there, but there's a lot of almosts where there's room to work on. There's room to kind of get to that what we saw, the level of play we usually saw them end the season on. They got them all the way to the national title game. There's just a lot of pieces that aren't completely gelled there. So I'm going to go with just almost.
You're going to go almost. I'll go somewhat similar type of word in one word to describe the Notre Dame loss on Sunday night. I'm going disappointing. Like you said earlier in the show, it's not a big deal to lose to a top 10 team on the road to open the season. There's no shame in that. But I think I expected more from this Notre Dame team this year, especially piggybacking off going 14-2 last year, winning 13 straight, staring down every challenge that whole way after the Northern Illinois game, and then playing for the national championship game. I thought Notre Dame was past the type of performance that we saw Sunday night where they never had the lead. They seemed like they were always like pushing the ball up the hill, and they're just playing from behind and playing at a point where they could have gotten blown out. It's 21-7. It could have been 24-7. It could have been 28-7. They've got to come back. They do come back. They tie it, and then they give up the game-winning drive for the field goal. And I just thought after last season, it was important for Notre Dame to go 14-2 last year, but it was important also for them to piggyback and get another really big win. Like that's what the elite programs do. The Ohio States, the Alabamas, when Alabama used to be Alabama. Like you can piggyback 1, 2, 3, 4 seasons in a row and say we went here and we went there and we played them and we played them and then we went there and we won all those games. And that's the expectation that I had for Notre Dame. So coming out of Sunday night, yeah, the loss stinks and they're 0-1, but they played hard. They had a chance. CJ Carr was really good, but I just thought coming off of what they did last year, they would show better maybe from the start of what they showed Sunday night down in Miami Gardens.
I mean, maybe another word to kind of go off that's like deflating. It just felt like the team wasn't all the way up for that game, almost in a way. Just felt like they never really were taking control of it at any point. And you mentioned those wins for a program. It felt like last year at A&M was kind of a win for Notre Dame to establish themselves as, there's going to be no overrated chance or anything like that. It's like this is a program that's here that you go to an SEC team and you win, and you're able to for the rest of the season kind of prove that out. It kind of felt like the exact opposite this year, whereas Miami kind of having a win like this, where usually for Miami they come into the season really highly ranked and then stumble, but they then got the win today. So it felt like for Notre Dame just a little bit of a step backwards as a program, a little bit in a way.
So you're on the field pregame Sunday. What was that atmosphere compared to what we saw on the field at Kyle Field last Labor Day weekend against Texas A&M, where you could feel the energy, really from both teams, but especially from Notre Dame? Then we find out later Marcus Freeman's energetic pregame speech that he gave Notre Dame that really got them going and got them ready to play. What was Sunday like down there on the field, even with the rain?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was wet. So like that early bad snap, that early fumble from Fields, I wasn't too surprised by that because it was just wet out there, still drizzling when the game was starting and raining. But in terms of the crowd, I was very impressed. at the energy there was. Even about 30 minutes pregame, the lower bowl was filling up, and it was completely orange. I know we were all maybe joking about the orange out. No, it was real. That stadium was orange on Sunday night.
But was it loud? Because it didn't come across much on TV.
So here's the way I'm going to describe it, is that I was up in the press box for most of the game, but my camera guy was down on the field. He told me that he had to put in his AirPods, not even playing anything, just because it's so loud. The problem with that stadium is that because there's like almost like not a full roof, but it's like that kind of square above, the sound gets trapped in and it comes back in. It creates like this ringing in your ears, and it gives you like a headache. That's what like my camera guy was saying, that even though like against A&M last year, he didn't need to put his headphones in on the field. Against Miami this year, he did. So maybe it's the stadium, but also they were loud. It was a tough atmosphere, I will say. It was a definite home field advantage.
And it's hard to gauge that even when you're in the press box because, yeah, it's partially, the stadium's partially enclosed, but the press box is behind glass windows.
Exactly.
And so it's like you're watching the game in a fish tank where you can't really gauge it. Especially last year when we were there for the Orange Bowl against Penn State, you couldn't gauge what the crowd level was like because you're in glass and it's kind of like watching a game in a library.
I mean, I was expecting there to be a good Notre Dame presence. I was very surprised at how orange that stadium was. It was mostly, if not all, it felt like Miami down there.
Typically, Notre Dame football being Notre Dame football, if the Irish lose a game, especially the opening weekend of the season, it's huge news.
Yes.
Like, Notre Dame's losing. Oh, my God, the world's going to end. Is college football going to end? What's going on? This weekend, this opening weekend, I don't know if it was that big of a deal with everything else going on.
I think last year, if this was the first year of the 12-team playoff, I think there would be a bigger, reaction. But I think we saw last year just how, Notre Dame weathered a loss at home to Northern Illinois. Like
in week two.
So I think there's this level of understanding around in the fan base and college football in general that with this new playoff format, an early loss does not ruin your season, especially to a team that looks very, very good and is going to be a playoff team themselves. So it's not season ending. Now, there's obviously way less room for error going forward, but no, it doesn't feel like world is ending, sky is falling after this.
How much does it suck if you're a Notre Dame guy that now you're going to have to, quote, root for Notre Dame or root for Miami the rest of the year to be good?
Yeah, I mean,
like if Miami's really good and Miami's a college football playoff team, that's almost, I don't want to say that loss is like a win, but it's going to be one of those losses where it's going to be yeah, Notre Dame lost, but they lost to Miami, which who knows how the ACC may go. They may win the ACC this year.
I mean, it's going to be the Oregon-Boise State situation from last year, where Boise State played Oregon super close early in the season, lost, but I think it ended up being their closest loss in the regular season, or closest win in the regular season for Oregon, and that was a positive for Boise State. That was a big thing that kind of helped them when people were making their playoff case, like, oh, well, they played Oregon the closest. Notre Dame should be rooting for that with Miami, but like you mentioned, that Irish fans rooting for the Hurricanes, that's kind of tough.
We had so much going on this first weekend in college football. This team playing that team, Notre Dame going down to South Florida. Some old NFL coach made his debut on Monday. So we're going to run a little angst meter right now because, like we talked about earlier, usually when Notre Dame wins a game or loses a game and starts the season 0-1, your tendency as a Notre Dame fan is to say, that's it, season's over, like, fire everybody, get rid of Mike Denbrock, get rid of Chris Ash, get rid of the offensive line. They all got to go, put new guys in. Relax. It's a long season, and I think judging by I think of what the way this angst meter is going to go, it's not that big of a deal. So let's run through 5. I'm going to give you 5 scenarios that happened this past weekend, week 1 of college football. At the end of the 5, let's rank how they stack up as far as how much angst somebody should have. 5 being the least, 1 being absolutely white hot. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. The first one, top-ranked Texas that we just talked about, loses at Ohio State in a debut by quarterback Arch Manning that was, I would want to say,
It was not as good as CJ Carr's. I think that's one way to put it.
It was similar in the way they started, because Texas with Arch Manning did a lot of things that Mike Denbrock did with CJ Carr in giving him a lot of easy, safe throws early to try to get him into the game. It eventually clicked for CJ Carr. It did not click for Arch Manning.
There was nothing clicking for Arch on Saturday.
So maybe down the line, let's hold off on the Arch Manning Heisman train hype. Let's hold off on Arch Manning only going to be on the 40 acres for 1 year before he's the first pick of the NFL draft. Slow that down. So top-ranked Texas loses at Ohio State in Arch Manning debut. Number 2, Alabama gets absolutely smoked by an unranked Florida State team that went 2-10 last year. Alabama now 9-5 under second-year coach Kalen DeBoer.
I think this stat of these Alabama games where they're favored by 14 or 13 and a half. Nick Saban was like 171, like 100 whatever, and like ridiculous. 2. Kalen DeBoer's like 4-4 in those games. It's these games that you should be not only winning, but winning by a lot, and he's losing now. It's not good.
Notre Dame never leads, but nearly wins at number 10 Miami. We talked about that plenty already. We'll talk about it even more. Number 4, ACC favorite, and some would say national championship dark horse. Clemson loses at home to Brian Kelly and LSU.
I know who that guy is.
You do?
Yeah.
Didn't he used to coach here?
I think so.
Is there a statue of him? Oh, no.
No statue.
No. And like some knucklehead columnist wrote, what's worse for a Notre Dame fan this weekend? The fact that we just mentioned that we talked about that you now have to root for Miami to be good this year, or that Brian Kelly went into Death Valley, went and played an ACC team on the road and did something that Notre Dame couldn't do against an ACC team on the road.
Yeah, that's not a great week one.
Not a great week. So, and our 5th one on our angst meter, Bill Belichick's debut at North Carolina turns into a clown show, 48-14. Wow. Somebody, the writer at The Athletic, Brendan Marks, counted up, I think, 37 fans left in one of the end zone sections by the end of the game. I watched North Carolina go down the field, basically on their first possession, score, make it 7-0, and then I started thinking, yeah, I'm not that interested in this game, and it's been a long weekend. I'm going to bed. So I went to bed, and I got up, and I saw that it turned out to be 48-14. Welcome to college football there, Coach Hoodie.
I think they only practiced that opening game script in fall camp. I think that was all they practiced, was just, we're going to run this script, and then I don't think they did anything else.
And then after that, was it just an absolute fire? Like, what are we doing here?
They're bringing the NFL mindset to college, Tom.
Ugh. Yeah, well, that didn't work out. All right, give me your angst meter, 1 or 5. Let's go 5 to 1. 5 being it's not that big of a deal, to 1 being, yeah, that's really a big deal for the opening weekend. What'd your 5 to 1 be? All
right, number 5, it's Notre Dame. I look at, especially looking at these other ones we'll get into in a second, but as we mentioned, on the road at a top 10 team, redshirt freshman QB making his first start, has really promising moments, and you lose by 3. You can totally come back from this in this season, especially if Miami looks good. There's the things that went wrong, a lot of them, in my opinion, whether it's play calling, maybe decision-making by Carr, they're fixable in this season. Some of these other issues we're going to get into are not fixable in 2025.
Oh, not fixable?
Yes.
Look at you. All right, give me 4. Let's go.
Number 4?
3, 2, 1.
Okay, I'll do it all the way. All right. Number 4, this is going to surprise you a little bit. Top-ranked Texas losing at Ohio State with Arch Manning.
Wow.
Making that start at the defending national champions. One of the toughest places to play. I know Arch looked absolutely terrible, but and we have really high expectations. I think the idea of him winning a Heisman, I think you could throw that out the window. But him being a good college quarterback, I don't think that's all of a sudden done after that. I mean, this is a secondary that is very good, a defense that is awesome, coming off a national title, playing in Columbus in front of 100,000. You're going to struggle. That's a really tough. That's really tough thing to ask.
Asking Arch Manning to go into the horseshoe on then make his college basically his starting debut, kind of like asking Marcus Freeman to go back to Ohio State as the head coach of Notre Dame in his first game and beat the Buckeyes in 2022. Didn't happen then. didn't happen this weekend for Arch Manning.
Exactly. So then number 3 for me, ACC favorite Clemson loses at home to Brian Kelly and LSU. And now we're starting to get into some of the things that I think are a little more program-based. Clemson, I know it's been a little while since they've won those national titles, but we thought, okay, Dabo's going back into Dabo's finally maybe embracing the portal a little bit. Maybe they're turning a corner. LSU just looked like a better football team, better athletes, better players. It just, even though Clemson has several guys who a lot of NFL draft prospects, NFL draft talent evaluators would be saying were, NFL draft picks, they just don't have it across the roster. And this is a game that, we're going to talk about Alabama in a second, but this is a game that we think, especially Dabo Swinney at Clemson, does not lose, and a game that Brian Kelly at LSU would probably usually lose. So to have that reverse, to have this result is surprising to me.
It was.
All right, number 2, Alabama getting smoked by unranked Florida State.
I can't believe you're going this way. I cannot believe
Really?
it. Yes.
Okay. So Alabama getting smoked. There is something wrong with this Alabama program. And when I said, the Notre Dame problems are fixable in this year, these Alabama problems, it just feels like maybe Kalen DeBoer was not the right answer as the head coach. Now, again, we're still so early on in this, but again, Florida State coming off a 2-10 season. Thomas Castellanos back in June was saying that Alabama doesn't have Nick Saban to come save them anymore. Thomas Castellanos, I think he got benched at Boston College.
He did. He couldn't even play quarterback for BC, and now he's talking smack against Alabama.
And backing it up. That is a far cry from what we expect the Crimson Tide to be. To lose like that when you're expected to win like they were expected against this Florida State program that we have no idea what they're going to be this season after last year, there's a problem with that program. And that just leaves number 1, last night, Bill Belichick, North Carolina. That doesn't look like an ACC football team.
But should we be that surprised? Like, he's never been a head coach at the collegiate level.
But you're saying angst meter. That was supposed to be this coronation. I saw Michael Jordan, Roy Williams, and Lawrence Taylor sitting next to each other, and they had to watch that.
Did they stay for the whole game?
I don't know. I didn't watch the whole game. I highly doubt they didn't watch it. They didn't watch it either. After that, the only other comparison I can think of for this Belichick after last night is Urban Meyer with the Jaguars. Ooh. It's seeming like that.
It might end in the same similar situation for Bill Belichick. So that's your 5-1.
That's my 5-1.
Here's my 5-1. 5, Bill Belichick.
Really?
4, Notre Dame loses at Miami. 3, Texas, number 1 team in the country, everyone's pick for the national championship, loses at Ohio State. Maybe not that they lost, but the fact that a coach who's so offensive oriented can only get 7 points. Mm-hmm. That would be number 3. Number 2, Clemson loses at home. Clemson's not supposed to lose at home in Death Valley opening the season, even if it's to LSU, given what LSU had done the previous couple seasons under Brian Kelly. Clemson didn't look like Clemson. And then number 1, I would say, it's Alabama. Mm-hmm. Getting just absolutely shellacked by a Florida State team that went 2-10 last year. And everyone in Alabama, can you imagine talk shows down in Tuscaloosa?
I don't even want to know what that radio sounds like today, because it is probably bad.
And this just in, if you want to get rid of Kalen DeBoer, different world in college football, it's going to cost Alabama $63 million to get rid of Kalen DeBoer. It's been done before. Wasn't Jimbo Fisher like 73?
Yes, that was Jimbo Fisher really said it there at A&M. But we know that A&M is, when it comes to boosters, maybe the richest program in the country. They seem to always just find money no matter what. But $63 million, that's a lot. I'm just curious, why do you have we basically had the same exact order except for Belichick. Why do you have Belichick at 5?
Because it's North Carolina. If it was Bill Belichick, if it was Bill Belichick coaching a blue blood college football program, and even any program really in the Big Ten or the SEC, at Carolina, you got to understand, Jackson, it's all about basketball down there.
That's a good point.
Like seriously, people. How many Tar Heel fans were like at halftime of that game, whatever the halftime score was, or they were thinking when they were sitting in Kenan Stadium, yeah, this stinks, but what are the dates that we play Duke in basketball?
That's a good point.
I think that's all that matters.
I was listening to a show this morning, and the host brought up that he had a North Carolina friend text him like, "Oh, well, at least we have that first drive."
See?
And that would not be the case at any, like, at Alabama. They're wanting to, get rid of Kalen DeBoer today, even though it cost $63 million. At North, so I get your point right there. I just think I think we're in for some crazy tell-all stories. I think at the end of this, someone's gonna write some story that's gonna have some crazy details.
Does he make it through the season?
After last night,
you don't know. Doubts.
Tom, there were balloons in the post-game press conference room.
What is up with that? Like, can PR 101? You get absolutely shellacked in your first game. Get the balloons away from the podium, please.
Like, that's the thing, is that it's not just on the field did they look completely overmatched. It's just, I mean, we all know the girlfriend situation, and everyone's talking about that, making jokes about it. But there's like actual ways in which that is becoming a laughing stock around the program, with her being on the emails, the balloons may be done by her, like whatever's going on. Like, it's just also all the side stuff in addition to the product in the field being, I mean, you wrote it in the show notes, a clown show.
This may be the last time we mention Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson on this podcast.
Yeah.
Which is okay. It's okay.
Now Mike will probably bring it up.
No. Where's Mike? Keep looking to the seat.
Yeah.
He's not there. We should have had like a cardboard cutout sitting in that.
We should just, he should have like gave us his bag, and we could have just put his bag in the seat.
Just put the camera on the bag.
Yeah.
God, we miss you, Mike. Hurry back. Come home and join the pot of gold. So, Notre Dame football. Is it time for a scheduling change, Jackson?
Yes.
Jackson Neill. Look, listen. Notre Dame opens away from home for the 5th straight season. 4 of those games away from Notre Dame Stadium. At Florida State, when Florida State was relatively good, in a game where Marcus Freeman was in his first year as defensive coordinator, and people wanted him gone after halftime, the way that thing was unfolding in Tallahassee in 2021. So they're at Florida State, at Ohio State, at Texas A&M, and now at Miami. I get playing a really hard schedule and playing quality opponents and not being like, well, we're just going to fatten up on these also ran teams from the MAC or the Big Ten. But isn't this just a little too much for Notre Dame football year after year after year?
I agree, but the problem is this is the only time you can get these games. I think is that, I mean, the
second week maybe
second, like, yeah, that's another thing. Is like, okay, like if you wanted to argue second or third week, I would much prefer like opening. If your second game is a home opener versus A&M, I'm cool with that. But like the first game needs to not be at Miami. The first week you got to get rid of that because that's a little too much. But with the Big Ten and the SEC adding more conference games, their non-conference window is smaller. Now, they have said they want them to be scheduling good non-conference games, so that helps Notre Dame, but that means that those weeks you can do it are the first couple weeks, and it's a terrible position to kind of be in because you have to play these tough games early, and you're right, it's really hard to start a season like that year after year after year. I mean, those are blue blood programs you just listed off in the past several years.
And it's not going to get any easier anytime soon for Notre Dame football as far as scheduling, because they will have scheduling agreements to play Miami, Clemson, and Florida State more in the ACC. Yeah. Michigan's going to eventually rotate back on the schedule for a couple of years. Alabama's coming back on the schedule for a couple of years. We talked about at Clemson, the 12-year scheduling agreement that they have with Clemson. Mm-hmm. Who knows what's going to happen with USC? And then also Pete Bavacqua has a deal in place to play Texas home and away. Mm-hmm. So, and when we talked with Pete Bavacqua in summertime and talked about the 9-game schedules that these leagues are going to start rotating toward and trending toward, Pete Bavacqua was very confident that regardless of whether or not a team from the SEC or the Big Ten or whatever conference played an 8 or a 9-game schedule, Notre Dame had quality opponents lined up to want to play football against the Irish.
It was Greg Sankey, right, the SEC commissioner, that said it's going to start becoming like a requirement for these SEC teams to have at least one non-conference game against a Big Ten, against a Big 12. Specifically mentioned Notre Dame. That's going to help continuing to have even just the Arkansas on the schedule and just getting this schedule to the point where if you go 11-1, if you go 10-2, you're in the college football playoff.
Oh, and by the way, Notre Dame's scheduled to open 2026 versus Wisconsin in Lambeau Field. So there goes. There's another quality opponent. That's Labor Day Sunday night. There may still be a chance that Notre Dame could sneak a game onto the schedule for late August. So who knows? That may or may not be the opener. But again, another test for Notre Dame in opening a college football season. We've seen it 5 straight years. Kind of. You had to play Navy in Dublin, but that wasn't an easy game because
it's just weird.
It's a weird game, and you're playing against Navy, which you just have no idea what direction that's going to go. So it's going to go another weird direction with Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean that's like you said. If when you start stacking up these years of this decade of the 2020s and how they've started their season, the fact that the easiest one you can find is against Navy in Dublin on a field that is questionable sometimes with the quality of that field against Navy, who year in, year out, you have just no clue how they're going to be running the weird triple option. That just shows you just how tough it's been to start these seasons.
All right, you want to dig into 27-24?
Let's dig it. Let's do it.
We're going to get some reader questions and comments, and I decided to throw these here now because if we started talking about what went wrong and what we didn't like and what they need to work on, it kind of answers all these questions anyway. Like we're going to touch on all these topics as it is. So let's go with the first question from Brian, Parts Unknown, probably hanging out with Berardino and Parts Unknown.
There we go, whole party.
Why not try to run the ball more with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price to start the game? There was no excitement on the sidelines at all. Start with first part of that question. What happened at the run game?
So this was kind of brought up in the post-game presser, and I think it wasn't completely described, but it seemed like there was a lot of RPOs, those run-pass options, and maybe Carr was told to, try to throw the football. Later in the game, after the interception, he was, I think, told a little more, hey, start handing the ball off. But it was a problem. I mean, at one point, I think about 5 minutes left in the third quarter, I wrote down that Jeremiah Love had 4 carries. That is not okay.
How does that happen?
This is a guy who could be a top 5, top 10 pick in the NFL draft who, if he was the lead running, if he was in Ashton Genty's role last year, could have won the Heisman. This is a guy that is that talented. Maybe hurdles people too much, but is that talented. Jadarian Price, same thing. And meanwhile, CJ Carr is getting more getting as many or more carries than them.
He can't be CJ Carr for all that he did well Sunday night. You just can't have him as your leading rusher with 11 carries. You just can't.
You have this great. I think I said before the season, I went out on a limb and said Notre Dame had the best running back room in the country, putting it above Penn State, which is saying a lot. But there is so much depth in this running back room, even past Love and Price, who are all-American talents. And the fact that Jadarian Price finishes with 6 carries, 45 yards, that's a 7.5. Like it seemed like when they gave him the ball, he was finding some holes. I get that eventually you get down and you want to try to throw back into it, but you have to get those guys going. They can't have 16 total carries between the two of them.
Jadarian Price on that scoring drive that ended in CJ Carr basically running from Miami up to Tampa and almost out of bounds before he finds Micah Gilbert. And oh, by the way, Micah Gilbert's in the game only because Malachi Fields can't hold on to the ball in his first game.
Micah Gilbert, offensive breakout for someone in this podcast.
227. I've got that at 34 minutes before you started patting yourself on your back. Yeah, I know, Micah Gilbert. But
you guys laughed at me.
The only reason Micah Gilbert's playing, Jackson, is because your graduate student NFL type of receiver fumbles the football on the first chance that he gets. Otherwise, maybe that's Malachi Fields. So back to my original point.
Yeah, sorry.
That scoring drive, Jadarian Price carried 5 times for 49 yards on that drive. You know what he did the rest of the game? 1 carry, -4 yards. What are we doing?
I think the best way to describe it is just they wanted to get CJ Carr comfortable with some screen passes, which is exactly what you should be thinking. But they went too much with that. They just to start when they started their first drive, they threw it was like 3 straight screen passes to start the game. Which when they started off with it, I was like, oh, okay, 1 or 2. They just didn't run the football ever. And I get that it's RPO and maybe the read wasn't there, but at certain points, just call a designed run. You have the talent in the backfield. That to me was something they really have to fix. And I think they just got too focused on getting Carr comfortable and not enough on getting the best players on the offense, in my opinion, going.
From Kevin Patrick in Charlotte, North Carolina. Why did it look like Notre Dame lacked the effort to finish plays throughout the game? Hitting but not tackling on defense, dropping passes, etc.
I mean,
not sure.
I don't really know. I mean, you can kind of grab the last part of the last question there with no excitement on the sidelines. I mean, it just felt like a big Miami, a big Miami night. We were talking about the crowd. It just felt like they had all the energy and everything. I saw people say maybe Notre Dame's too businesslike. I don't know if that's really the case. They just felt flat. It could have been. It wasn't over hot. I don't think they were just exhausted. I don't really have a good answer for it.
At one point, Anthony Knapp did leave for the final drive because he was dehydrated, I believe. Or no, he was fighting off cramps.
Yeah, that's what Marcus said in the post game.
So Styles Prescott had to play, and then Molly McGrath did say that at one point in the game also Anthony Knapp was eating popsicles because he was overheated.
Wow.
At that point. So was it overly? I don't know if it was. I didn't get the sense in watching it on television that it was that hot.
It wasn't
any hotter than what it was last year at Texas A&M.
I personally, I remember being way more uncomfortable at Texas A&M.
And because the sun was still out just before the game too.
Yeah, and then I mean the nice part about the rain is with rain it just kind of cools things off. So it was hot, but it wasn't like this level of, oh man, it's so bad. I get why they're not playing well. I don't really have a good answer for why they just felt a little flat.
How about Pat in Atlanta? Pat in Atlanta wants to know, can offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock be left in Miami? And again, I get it. It's a loss. I understand it. I've seen this happen before. The angst that we talked about earlier, the frustration, the anger, the disappointment, the whatever, has to be pointed at somebody and directed towards somebody. Mike Denbrock gets it all on this one because of the game plan, because of it seemed like it was too safe of a game plan. It was not utilizing some of the weapons. We haven't even talked about Jaden Greathouse.
No.
You know what Jaden Greathouse did the last time he was in that football stadium? Oh, he only caught 7 passes for 107 yards and a score and was targeted 7 times in that game against Penn State in the Orange Bowl. How many catches did he have on Sunday?
Did he even have one?
Zero.
I don't remember seeing him at all out there.
0. You had as many catches as Jaden Greathouse. And he was on the field for the tip pass that was later kicked up in the air.
That was crazy.
And picked off by Reuben Bain. But you cannot not. Like, we've talked ad nauseum, and the people have talked ad nauseum about Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. But you also cannot leave Jaden Greathouse and, to an extent, Will Pauling on the sideline without getting them involved in some way, shape, or form.
I mean, one of those screens to Faison could have gone to Greathouse. And I like Faison. I think he's really good in space, but I mean, 5 catches for 33 yards. He was able to get some yards here or there, but it wasn't like he was lighting the world on fire. Why not put Greathouse for one of those screens? I don't think that would have been that difficult.
Which leads us to Harold and Elkhart saying, and we touched on it a little bit, what was that Irish game plan?
It was to get CJ Carr comfortable, and it was overly focused on that, and it got away from what do we do best. What Notre Dame does best is this year should be run the football, and they overcompensated getting Carr acclimated, and I think it, in a way, it kind of paid off later on in the game. That 65-yard pass to Raritan, like he had some moments where he was escaping pressure, keeping his eyes downfield, and I think those early throws build him up that confidence. But in the end, that can't be your only focus in a game plan, is to get your young QB comfortable. It has to also be feature the best player in your offense.
When we watched CJ Carr during the minimal amounts of practices that we saw in August, leave stretching and warm-up period to go off to the side and start throwing because he gets so worked up and he needs that pressure release. You knew they were going to have some sort of game plan to get him involved early. And he completed 4 passes. I think none of them went over 3 yards to start in those drives. But once you complete those 4 passes, say, all right, our QB's good. Let's go back and do what we do well, and that's put the ball in the hands of number 4. Forget this hurling stuff. Like the hurling stuff was cool last year. Now it's just starting to get old where I'd rather see him go and try to run and maybe cut it into the middle of the field or cut it outside instead of putting his steps together so he can hurdle somebody and jump over somebody.
And he's so quick. He's so quick. That's the thing. I mean, he had a spin move where I was in the part of the press box where there's just all a bunch of Miami writers. He hits a spin move and then everyone goes, whoa. Like they've never seen anything like that because that's what Jeremiah Love can do. And kind of going off of that, a big reason I think is a lot of RPOs and putting the option in the hands of Sakar. At a certain point, just call a design run. Just hand the ball off.
Chuck Petkins, it looked like it was Petkins on the form. It might be Perkins, but again, he's from parts unknown, hanging out with Mike Berardino. Can Notre Dame repeat last year's incredible run to the national championship game despite losing to Miami? What a disastrous start, Chuck says. Chuck, off the ledge, it's all good, right?
It's all good. It's not a perfect start, but it is still all good. And the rest of the schedule, when I predicted 10-2, I just kind of assumed going into this season that there was going to be a loss in one of these first two games, whether it was Miami or A&M. There is definitely a chance to run the table and get to the national championship game. I mean, even just games that we thought were going to be tough, like that Boise State game, that's not going to be hard. It looks like after
Don't say that.
I'm just saying.
Don't say that. A year ago this week, we're thinking, yeah, you know what?
Yeah,
they just beat Texas A&M. They've got this Northern Illinois thing.
They can
just go back and they're fine.
That's a good point. So I'm not going to say that, but yes, there is this. They can repeat that run. The team will look a little different in terms of doing that run. They'll need Carr to be throwing the ball more than Leonard ever did. Not as much reliance on the defense. We can get a little bit into that, but the schedule is definitely manageable at the level of talent Notre Dame has.
Last question, we'll wrap it up with John in Minnesota. He says, most people thought head coach Marcus Freeman was over his head last year after the loss to Northern Illinois, not Indiana like some dope wrote on it, until he ran the table. I may feel that way again about Marcus Freeman. How do they bounce back from this?
I don't think he's over his head.
No.
I think
whatever doubts you had about Marcus Freeman coming clear of that Northern Illinois game last year, they were answered when they ripped off 13 in a row and didn't lose the rest of the way, knowing full well that one additional loss would knock them totally out of the playoffs last season. Mm-hmm. One additional loss this year may push them to the brink because we don't know how everything's going to shake out with the Big Ten, with the SEC, with the AC. But like, what team's going to do this? Is Alabama? They write them off. Clemson, they have one loss. What do they do? We don't know what one more loss may mean for Notre Dame, but one more loss last year, and they were out.
They were done. Yeah,
and they had to answer. They had to answer the bell. They answered the bell 13 consecutive weeks, and you know what? That's pretty hard.
That is very, very hard, especially like you said with that type of pressure. Marcus Freeman is not over his head. Yeah, they were a little flat, but it was nowhere near like the flat they were against Northern Illinois last year. They still were there ready to play them. They almost won this football game. Like, let's not forget that they came, like CJ Carr led a comeback in the second half to tie this football game up. It was right there. So in my mind, the mistakes come more so from Denbrock and Chris Ash at the coordinator level than the head coaching level in this. I don't think he's over his head. I think this program is still in a really good spot. Miami, I mean, we haven't really talked much about them. Carson Beck, he's the real deal. That's a really good football team they have.
We don't care about Miami. Forget about Miami. Just keep winning. That's all that we care about Miami.
I'm just saying, like, losing to them, it's not like this was a bad team to lose to.
Mike Denbrock's taking a lot of heat. Jeremiah Love, how come he hasn't been involved? CJ Carr, he played pretty well. We'll mention. We can also mention quickly the offensive line. Not great.
Yeah,
not great.
I mean, we did talk about the Miami defensive line having some talent, but I was surprised at the offensive line performance. I mean, even seeing like some of those Pro Football Focus grades coming out after the game.
You don't want to take that grade home.
No,
you don't want that on your report card at
no,
midterm.
Those were some bad grades. Yeah, I was surprised by how they didn't play well.
So that's the offense. We have not addressed the defense, and you know what? I expect again. The expectation level, the bar was set really high in 2024 when they went to the national championship game. So you're thinking, as good as that defense was last year, they should be even that good or maybe even better in 25. We didn't see that Sunday night with Chris Ash, who, honestly, when they showed him on the sideline, when the sideline camera caught him, he did look like it was like, oh, I don't want what this. I'm not the scout for the Jacksonville Jaguars anymore.
Mm-hmm. I'm
disappointed in the defense,
especially the defensive line.
Right.
I mean, that one of my questions I asked to Marcus in the post game was, where was the pressure? I mean, I think their first sack didn't come until late second half. It felt like
Traore, right?
Yeah, Traore.
Traore had that sack.
There was no Beck was able to stand in there, and he's a good enough quarterback that if he stands in there and you have good enough receivers that are making one-handed catches, that they're going to move the ball down the field. Not getting any pressure was disappointing. And my big takeaway too on that, specifically on the D line, was they miss Mills and Cross up the middle.
They do.
But
again, that was a concern going into the season.
Mm-hmm.
We were led to believe that Donovan Heinisch, a captain,
mm-hmm.
could hold up. That Gabe Rubio could hold up. Jason Onye could hold up. You know what? They got pushed around.
They did.
They got pushed back, and it's something where it's like,
It's hard to blame other pieces of a defense when the team can just run the football up the middle, because when that's available, mm-hmm. the offense can do so much, whether it's play action, just different things, that it's hard for the rest of the defense to play well when that specific thing is going wrong.
One of the strengths that the defense thought they had, that we thought that was going to be a strength for this defense preseason, was all the parts that they had on all the levels.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they can. Al Washington's like, oh, we can play with 9-10 defensive linemen, and Max Bulla. We've got 4 really quality linebackers, and right on down the line on all 3 levels, the linemen, the linebackers, the DBs, so many interchangeable parts. I think they got caught playing with too many of those parts on Sunday, where it was, you go back and watch the film and watch who the linebackers are at one given point. You've got Drake Bowen and Jalen Sneed, and then you've got Jaden Osbury and Kingston Viliamasa, and then you've got Kingston Viliamasa and Jalen. Stay with a base defense and let those guys muster up some sort of momentum and some energy before you start moving guys in and out, left and right. And then we saw it with Carson Hobbs was in the game at key moments. Tay Johnson was in the game at key moments. I think Mark Zachary had to play when Christian Gray went out with that brief injury there in the first half. I think he had so many guys. Stick with your base 11 unless the heat and the humidity and the tempo is really getting with them, and let those guys get in some sort of rhythm, and then kind of piecemeal. Let's give this guy a series. Let's give that guy a series, where there were just so many changes at so many different times where I don't know how much momentum and rhythm they could get in.
I completely agree, because we talked about depth being a strength of this defense all fall camp long. Sometimes in football, I mean, let's go specific, on the offensive side, wide receiver is like this, and parts of the defense, like defensive end, are like this, where it's less about depth and more about high-end talent.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter how many wide receivers you have if you don't have the guy that can go up there and make a play. On the defensive line, it's like, you don't really matter how many defensive linemen you have unless you can have that one guy that can draw so much attention that it allows everyone else to form the pressure, or he can just beat a single man several times throughout the game. There was you're right, a little too much mixing and matching and relying on that depth, which is good, but let your guys, let your starters play like starters and get the number of snaps they need.
You know what's weird? We sat here all of August and did the summer pot of gold, and then we did the preview pot of gold, and we're so high on the offense and the defense, and then when it came to special teams, we were like, I have no idea. They could be this. They could. Guess what was a strength on Sunday night in South Florida? The special teams.
I mean, it was crazy. Special teams almost won them the game, because it was going to be that Notre Dame had the better special teams after Miami flubs a field goal snap. It was consistent. It was very consistent, and that's Burnett looked solid. They had some good kickoffs, good punts. It just I don't really have much to say, because it just was when special teams is going right, it's just good. You don't really have anything to say.
James Rendell was good. He had 4 punts, averaged 45 yards. His longest was 55. And then Noah Burnett, like even Marty Biaggi, when Marty Biaggi met the media in late August during camp, he wasn't really sold on, well, do we have a short range field goal kicker? Field goal kicker. Do we have a short range guy? Do we have a long range guy? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Noah Burnett goes out there, makes all three of his PATs, and then makes that 39-yarder in a tough, high-leverage situation to where you walk out of there and you're like, all right, they've got to fix this, they've got to fix that. Maybe they don't really have to tinker that much with the kicking game because they're pretty good shape.
No, I completely agree. I think that their special teams seem solid. Even someone like Jordan Faison on the punt returns, he didn't break anything, but he's always he seems like a guy that could break something. It seemed really solid, which you're right. It's the exact opposite of what we were saying all fall camp. So what do we know?
We know nothing.
Exactly.
Look in the camera. We don't know anything. We don't know anything. We don't see anything. That was the most Notre Dame football we've seen in an actual game situation. I'm not talking spring. Since the Ohio State game back in Atlanta.
It is.
That's the most complete of what we're able to see because we don't see anything in August.
No, we don't. I mean, stretching or the whatever couple drills they let us see.
This, that, the other.
Yeah, it's not game action.
So Notre Dame's, speaking of game action, Notre Dame's off until September 13th.
Yes, September 13th.
Let's just get back. All I want to do, I was thinking today too, was as we're planning out the show, all I want to do is get back to a normal schedule.
Oh my gosh, me
like
too. Me too.
I'm still asking myself. And I thought I needed to contact my daughter, who's away as a freshman in college. And I was thinking, well, I can't get with her now because she's in her Monday morning 8:30 to 12:30 lecture. And I thought, oh wait, it's Tuesday.
Yeah,
this Monday, Tuesday, Sunday. It's great for the holidays, but it really screws everything up.
I have absolutely I have no idea what this is. I think I texted you this morning. We're doing the podcast today at 2, right? Because I was like, I'm pretty sure it's Tuesday. It's, I'm excited for just some consistency.
So Notre Dame's 0-1. They get this week off of game action. They'll get back and start prepping, if they haven't already, for Texas A&M. What has to change? What has to improve? Much? Because, again, as we've talked about, it's one game. They've got 11 more because Jackson, I don't know if you know where I'm going with this.
I know exactly.
I don't know if you know, but you only get 12 guaranteed games, right?
I need to make I need to edit up and make like a cut of it so we have just a drop so we can play that.
Ask Marcus Freeman anything about the season, and he's going to go back to there's only 12 guaranteed opportunities. So they get their home opener, Texas A&M. I didn't even look. I didn't even look to see where Texas A&M was ranked. Texas A&M, after being they were 21st last year or last week.
They're 22nd.
They're 22nd. So they won their opener. They've got probably another easy one this week. So they'll be ranked. They'll be nationally ranked. They
play Utah State this weekend.
Well, there you go. The Aggies, right?
Yeah, the Aggies versus Aggies. How about that?
Aggies times 2. So yeah, it stinks. Notre Dame's 0-1, but you don't have to go through wholesale changes. It's not anything like it was the last year around this time when they lose to Northern Illinois. Stay the course, get better in some areas, and you can still be a top 10 team be a top 10 team in the country.
I think if you told people, most Notre Dame fans, in April or whatever, before the season started, okay, let's say Notre Dame goes 1-1 in their first 2 games. I think a lot of people would be like, I would hope they go 2-0, but that's not terrible. They still have a chance to do that again with A&M coming up. I even though I dislike it for us, I like this bye week for the team right now, kind of to get right after this, especially after playing on a Sunday night on the road. I think it does come at a pretty solid time to get them all set for that. But like you're right, what has to change? Run the football a little bit more. Stick with your guys on defense. But I don't see some giant wholesale changes. We're not sitting here like Texas is, where we're going, what's wrong with Arch Manning?
Yeah, we thought we had a better quarterback than what we had.
CJ Carr, if you told me, like, in terms of what I was expecting, and this is on the higher end side of what I was hoping for. That interception, bad play. He admitted that I was an RPO. He should have not thrown that football. Okay, he throws an interception that bounces off a foot. But other than that, some of the plays he was making, there is high-end potential there for him to be a very, very good quarterback. So I think there's tweaks, but like I said, almost. This is not doomsday. You lost by 3 points to a top 10 team on the road. That happens.
It's okay. And you know what? After this week, guess what we're going to do? We're changing up the schedule again because this is a Tuesday. Next week, all right, let's lay out. Let's lay it out for our listeners and our readers and our next week we'll get back into normal game routine.
There we go.
Marcus Freeman on Monday, coaches, players on Tuesday, pot of gold on Wednesday.
Sounds good to me.
Right. So come back next week. Join us, Mike Berardino. Hopefully, we'll be back from parts unknown.
Hopefully, have a few stories too.
No, Mike Berardino with some stories.
Never would have guessed that.
For Jackson, I'm Tom. This has been the Pot of Gold. Notre Dame football. We'll be back. Talk to you next week.
This has been the South Bend Tribune's Pot of Gold podcast, your home for insightful Notre Dame football coverage and analysis.